Julius Malema, the ever-fiery and uncompromising leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, has long been portrayed in the public eye as the embodiment of radical activism. Whether it's storming the halls of parliament, making electrifying speeches that challenge the status quo, or taking aim at South Africa's political elite, Malema has positioned himself as the unyielding voice of the disenfranchised. To millions, he is the fearless champion of economic freedom, a political gladiator waging a relentless battle against corruption and inequality. But behind the resonant rhetoric, behind the signature red overalls and the microphone that amplifies his defiance, lies a side of Malema rarely seen in public discourse, the private tycoon. Beneath the activist persona exists a man deeply enmeshed in a complex web of business dealings, investments, and ventures that suggest an entirely different set of priorities than the populist image he projects. The contrast between the public figure and the private mogul is striking and at times, controversial. Investigations and insider accounts have shed light on the extensive nature of Malema's business interests. From strategic stakes in sectors ranging from agriculture to mining, property, and entertainment, he appears to have cultivated a portfolio that rivals many of the country's seasoned entrepreneurs. While he speaks to the masses about land redistribution, wealth inequality, and the redistribution of resources, reports suggest that he has quietly amassed considerable personal wealth leveraging networks, partnerships, and opportunities that remain far from the scrutiny of his public persona. This dual identity raises compelling questions. Can one genuinely fight for the poor while simultaneously navigating the high-stakes world of corporate South Africa? Is Malema's activism purely ideological, or is it increasingly intertwined with personal economic interests? Critics argue that this blending of politics and private enterprise blurs ethical boundaries, offering him both influence and access in ways that few other political figures can claim. Supporters, however, contend that his business acumen is merely a reflection of his ability to navigate South Africa's challenging socio-political landscape, portraying it as a tool to further his vision for economic empowerment. The tension between persona and reality has become a recurring theme in Malema's narrative. Publicly, he rails against the elite, positioning himself as the unrelenting watchdog of justice. Privately, his tycoon ventures suggest a pragmatic and strategic individual, one who understands that influence extends beyond parliamentary speeches and grassroots mobilization. It is this duality that both fascinates and frustrates observers, painting a portrait of a leader who thrives in contradictions. Social media and investigative journalism have further amplified this narrative. Viral posts, leaked documents, and in-depth reports have intermittently highlighted the stark contrast between the man on stage and the man in boardrooms. Each revelation adds layers to a story that is as much about power and perception as it is about politics. The public persona becomes a tool, a performance that inspires loyalty and mobilizes support, while the private tycoon quietly consolidates wealth and influence. Yet, perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Malema's double life is its symbiosis. The activist fuels the tycoon, and the tycoon fuels the activist. One cannot exist entirely without the other. The charisma, fearlessness, and notoriety that make Malema a household name are inseparable from the resources and strategic connections that allow him to expand his influence behind the scenes. His duality is not merely a hidden truth, it is a deliberate architecture of power, a balancing act between ideology and pragmatism. In the end, Julius Malema's story is a compelling study in contradictions. He is both a radical leader and a calculated businessman, a public figure defined by defiance and a private individual defined by strategic accumulation. To some, this dual life is evidence of hypocrisy. To others, it is evidence of mastery, a calculated navigation of the complex, often ruthless intersections of politics and commerce. Either way, it solidifies Malema's position as one of South Africa's most enigmatic and influential figures, a man whose life is a continuous performance, balancing the glare of the public eye with the subtle maneuverings of private ambition.